And I had noticed that there was millions. I think we mentioned this yesterday. Millions of Americans who are $5,000 or more behind on their rent. And Jeff in Georgia just told us that in Georgia, half of all renters are behind their rent by at least $2,000 in Georgia. That's a
and
stunning.
McConnell's still encouraging austerity, and
stunning
basically
figure.
we're not going to do anything.
Let's be clear. The rent moratorium imposed, or I should say the eviction moratorium imposed by the CDC runs out in December.
Yeah,
and
there's no rent moratorium.
Not rent moratorium, the eviction moratorium.
Would be nice.
Imposed by the CDC runs out at the end of December. And so there is pressure. Apparently Mitch McConnell doesn't feel it on Perdue and Loeffler to deliver a stimulus. And here is a clip of protesters in Portland basically putting their bodies in between police attempting to evict people in Portland and succeeding. This is on Twitter from Ben Jenkowitz. Put this up. I mean, just imagine, like, I don't know, just the idea that, we're expending taxpayer dollars to kick people out of their homes.
Great use of resources.
Well, that is,
like Bernie was saying.
That's a primary purpose that the police serve, though. They exist to protect private property, and we are seeing a very clear example of that here. And it's one of the reasons why we need to shrink their budgets so that they can't do that anymore.
Yeah, Absolutely. This is structural priorities.
And
but there really was beauty in that. I mean, the fury with which the American people or the people in Portland were defending their neighbors. I mean, there's many ways that we can go in these times of crises. And one of the ways is that we could, go at each other's throats and demonize one another. And then there are ways like that where we link arms. So I found it, even though they were screaming obscenities.
Well, that's the thing. It's that, to be clear,
it was heartwarming.
It's not a question. It's not a question of fetishizing, the anger or the violence, but it is like, they are doing that in service of keeping a family in their house.
Yeah, I'm not trying to give it an Oscar.
No, I know. I just wanted to emphasize that point. Like
it's solidarity.
Yeah, and it's providing, it's like just helping your neighbor not be thrown out of your home in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, not that it should ever be justified, but the idea that that resources are being expended when we're talking about, like, we don't have money to get the vaccines out, and yet there is that money going to basically provide the opportunity for this rent. If it's that important that you could expend money for armed guys to go and throw this family out, then maybe it's that important that the government could step up in this instance and pay the rent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to say real quick, we need to put this in the context of the clip we played earlier in the week about how none of these cops actually live in these communities anyway.
Right.
So we have the state paying these goon squads essentially to come drag people out of their homes. You look at the 538 has this map. It's really useful. Most police don't live in the cities they serve. And you look Portland all the way down here, Portland, Oregon. So some of the absolute worst. I mean, Minneapolis is just completely horrible. But yeah, Portland, fewer than, 25%.
So again, being paid by the tax dollars of those
Minneapolis
people
today, incidentally, is I believe it's today. I think the city council is voting on cutting the police budget. It's not a huge amount that they're cutting it. I think it's like less than 10%. But it is encouraging to hear. There is, and we've talked about, I mean, it's obviously, again, necessary but insufficient. But there are pilot programs in at least 5 cities now, major cities, to enhance the, to offload stuff from the police's portfolio. And I mean, I don't know, who you would want to give the portfolio for eviction. How about like there not be eviction? Or, I mean, obviously there, you cannot have, people just deciding like, I'm not going to, leave this property, at least in my opinion. But
why not? Like,
well,
I think this is a very effective tactic because, look, you can, if people are standing up to their landlords and causing them problems and resisting eviction and resisting, landlordism in general, the landlords are going to have the giant real estate interests that own most of the housing stock in this country are going to have a lot more political power than just the tenants do when they say, you guys got to fix this. Either the banks can take a haircut or you can give people money to pay their rent.
I agree. But I mean, I don't think that, if Dave Rubin decides to stop paying his mortgage on his house, I'm not going to be, and I would be rather I'd find it a little bit disturbing to see people going and protesting to protect him from the bank. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think that, but I think your point is well taken that, if, on one end of the spectrum, there is, enough difficulty in enforcing the, in maintaining the value of their property by getting the cops to throw people out and basically enhancing their value, then maybe they turn around and find sort of a less, allow the corporations, somebody take a haircut, the banks take a haircut, like you say, or the government subsidize, or whatever is necessary at that point.